I forgot I was preaching. A lot of times right before I get up, I kind of zone in and just ask God one more time before I go up to hide me behind the cross. And I forgot. Next thing you know, I get that look like, hey, you coming on up? I'm like, oh, okay. Hold on a second, Shelley. Okay. Yeah, hold on a second. Of course, today, Valentine's Day, he gets credit for his day, but of course, true love, we all know, comes from God. 1 John chapter 4 talks about God is love. And we're going to talk about his love and the love that he wants us to demonstrate to the world. And I thought and prayed about what I wanted to do today when I saw that Valentine's Day fell on a Sunday. And I thought, well, we can get a little romantic here and do the couples thing. But God began to share with me, no, I want you to talk about true love for every individual, the love that I have and the love that I want every person to give away. And so we're going to take a look at Corinthians chapter 13 here in a moment. But before I get started, because it is Valentine's Day, and it's important for husbands and wives to be fully committed in love and to demonstrate that to each other, I thought what we'll do today is highlight a particular couple. And so we're going to highlight a couple. And this particular couple has been in the church for a long time. As a matter of fact, I think they've been married 59 years. Now, that's a long time. I just celebrated 25, and I thought that was a long time. I'm still a baby. I'm still a baby. So what I wanted to do is share a little bit about this couple. But I've only been here about 7 months. What do I know? So what I did was ask some of the ones that know them the most. So with that, I'm going to see if Steve, if you can turn the lights off up front. Joseph, can you turn the lights off in the back? And we're going to watch a tribute. We're going to watch a tribute. Sorry, I didn't see you up here. To Bob and Kat.
I'm here today to talk about Mr. and Miss Ayers, Robert and Catherine Ayers, and what they have meant to us as far as their marriage and the way they exemplify love to us. In 1 Corinthians, I guess it best explains what they exemplify to us. And it says, love is patient, love is kind, and love is not jealous. And that's the first part of that verse. And to me, they exemplify that better than anyone I've ever met.
And when I think about bringing Papa's marriage, Papa to me exemplifies what the Bible means when it talks about loving your wife as Christ loves the church. He is a living sacrifice for her. He puts her needs above hers all the time. And here lately, I've seen Granny doing the same for him. It's been a two-way street. They really do love and cherish each other. And because they put their needs, each other's needs above their own, they're both content and happy, and really mean a lot to us.
They've always been in each other's corner, no matter how hard life got, no matter if they didn't even agree on what they were talking about, they always had each other's back.
We got married at a young age. I was 19, and I remember thinking, gosh, this just is going to be a piece of cake, because my parents had made it look so easy. I didn't realize how much sacrifice there was in making a good marriage. But it didn't take me long after being married to realize that that was a lot of what made marriage, a good, strong one, is the sacrifice and commitment.
They've both made me feel very welcome and a part of the family. But I think the picture that stands out in my mind is of him doing her hair every morning, and that's something that I feel like is what the image of cherishing somebody means, and I think that Luke and I would be blessed to have a marriage like theirs.
The spiritual leader of our family, and we never had to guess where we were going to be on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, Sunday nights. He was the spiritual leader of our family.
And I love how they're there for each other for everything. Papa does Grady's hair. I love how they can sit in a room with no TV, no lights, nothing, and you can just walk in that room and feel all the love that is in there.
Thank you for always having each other's back, for always, I never had any kind of doubts that my family wouldn't always be together, that my mom and dad would not always be together, because you could just tell that they loved each other no matter what through the difficult times, and they had some difficult times. But we always felt secure in their marriage, and for that I'm very appreciative.
So, got a little emotional there. Thank you all for being an inspiration to countless of people through the years and through a family that loves you and a church that adores you. You have been a picture for 59 years of what the Bible talks about in Corinthians chapter 13, 1 through 8. One more time. Now I got to preach after that. Not fun. Not fun. I'm going to share with you what the Bible says about love. Today, on Valentine's Day, is a great day to demonstrate what love is in every area of our lives, to everyone in our lives. And that's what this message really is about today. It's to demonstrate love in every area of our lives to everyone in our lives. Not just our wife or husband or our kids, but to everybody that we engage. People in this world are looking for kindness, gentleness, self-control. They're looking for all the values of what love is. And we as Christians who know love, who've been given love, ought to do so for them. We have been called to live in the overflow of Christ's supreme and divine love. Everything of consequence in this world flows from the overflow of Christ's love. And when we learn to live in the overflow of His love, three things will happen. It changes our lives, it changes our behavior, and it changes who we are and how we treat others. When we receive His love, it changes everything. The Bible says we are transformed into His image, into who He is and what He values. And that the core of who He is love. Romans 5:5 says this, And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. His heart has been poured out into us. And at the very cornerstone of who God is, it is love. Donna Barnhout says it like this: love is the key. Joy is love singing. Peace is love resting. Long-suffering is love enduring. Kindness is love's touch. Goodness is love's character. Faithfulness is love's habit. Gentleness is love's self-forgetfulness. And self-control is love's holding the reins. How's your love? Are you loving people? You're loving your wives, you're loving your children, you're loving those in your community, you're loving those in your workplace. Do you love people the way God would have you to love them? This morning we're going to read about Paul's great expression of Christ's love. Now in Corinthians 13, it really goes back to about 10, 11, 12 into 13, but the Corinthian church, they were kind of functioning in all the proper doctrines. They were functioning in the spiritual gifts. But one of the things that they were missing within that church was love. And Paul addresses it in Corinthians chapter 13. He says, look, you guys, you understand the spiritual gifts. You're starting to acting in the spiritual gifts. And you're doing all these things right. But I want you to know something. You can be right in all the forms of what the church looks like. But if you have no love, you have nothing. And I say the same thing to our church, as prayerfully this is being said to every church around this country, that if you have no love, you are truly missing the very fiber of what the church is all about. It's love. We're supposed to have love and give it away the way Christ gave it to us. It is the true ingredient to what a Christian is. 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 8 says this: if I speak in the tongue of men and angels, but I have no love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and I have all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but I have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but I have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. And we look at this and we're like, man, this is that great verses that's quoted when people get married, or something to do with marriage, relationships. But in reality, he was talking and addressing the church. And I think it's interesting if you really take a look at the things that he mentions about love, because you know and I know the definition of love can go on and on and on and on and on. Yet he chose these things. And before he gets into the litany of all that love is, he says, look, you can do all these things. You can do all these ministries. You can give to the poor. You can give your body. You can do all these things. But listen, if you've got not love, it means nothing. As a matter of fact, let me tell you what love is. And it's obvious that this church was missing some of these key ingredients to what love is. In the first 3 verses, we learn there's nothing more important in your life than the love of Christ. It is our most valuable possession. You may say, look, I don't have a lot of gifts. I don't have a lot of talents. I can't do all these different things. What am I supposed to do within the church? How am I supposed to get involved? Love people. Love people. That's the most important thing that the church of Jesus Christ can do for a world that's confused, is to love them without conditions. Unconditional love. Love without conditions. And so many times we only love as long as they meet our conditions. And as long as they meet our conditions, then I'll give you that love. Well, thank God that's not how Jesus Christ was. Because we had a condition problem called sin, but He loved us nonetheless. And we should do likewise. The word that Paul uses here for love is the Greek term agape. It's the highest form of love, especially brotherly love, charity, the love of God for man and man for God. Now, the interesting thing about this word was it was a forbidden word. They didn't like to use it. It didn't have much value. Wasn't really admired. Why? Because this word was so deep and so meaningful. It was more than, it was about not receiving, but all about giving. Continual giving. Giving till you're empty. And so during this part of time, and as a matter of fact, in the ancient world, but even today, that love probably wouldn't be admired either. But this is the word that we see throughout the New Testament. A love that you give away, that is selfless until it's empty. It is the divine demonstration of love found only in Christ. And when that love invades a person, it sweeps all hatred, malice, deception, and similar behaviors away. That's the love that we receive. But yet we still battle the flesh. It is still a part of us until we die and go to heaven and get our heavenly bodies. But it's a choice that we have to make every single day. And Paul makes it abundantly clear that agape love is a matter of personal choice, not a matter of personal strength or personal ability. It is a personal choice whether or not you will allow God to love through your life. Your choice. Are you going to allow God to love you through your life? Because that's all, when it's all said and done, that's agape love. You can't produce it on your own. Only God. And the question is, are you going to allow God to love you through your life? And that's why when we're talking about this love, when we're talking about Corinthians 13, even on Valentine's Day, I can't love my wife the way I want to love my wife outside of God's love. So we have to tap into His love, and His love comes through us so that we can give that love away, because, of course, our love always comes with stipulations. It's always vented in emotion. It's always saying, well, I'll give it to you if. That's not God's love. It doesn't recognize what you give. It's all about you simply giving. But we see three things before we go into 4 through 8. We see our gifts are meaningless without love. So you may be uber talented. You may have all these gifts. You may like to do all these different ministries. But if you have love, Paul says it is meaningless. Second thing you see is our life is pointless without love. The sad fact is that far too many people settle for mere existence rather than true living. You can only truly live when you live through God's love. Without it, this life is pointless and the next is devastating. 3, our efforts are fruitless without love. Without love, our efforts will never amount to anything more than just our human work. Without the power of Christ's love as the driving force of our life and our ministry. And so many churches today are existing, and they've got a form of godliness, but there's no power. Why? If you deduce it all the way down, because they don't love people. They're not allowing God to love them and for that love to go and be demonstrated to the world. It's about self. It's about pride. It's about ego. And unfortunately, ministries like that are absolute fruitless. And I don't know about you, But within this church, I don't want our ministries to be fruitless. I don't want us to brag about all the gifts that we have. I don't want us to do anything. All we need to do is learn to give our lives away on behalf of King Jesus. And when we learn to give our lives away, we truly experience God's love. And that's why when it talks about peace and joy, that's how you experience peace and joy. By giving that love away, not keeping it inside, giving it away. Experience that love. Verses 4 through 8, Paul gives an exhaustive definition of what agape love is. And he does so with incredible clarity. I mean, it is crystal clear. And sometimes we read it so fast we really don't take time to really understand what it is. And even ask ourselves, is this something that we possess? And so I'm going to take the next 25 minutes and I'm going to go down this list. And I don't want you to hear my voice. I want you to listen to God's voice. And there are times in our life we have to evaluate and adjust who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and allow God to give direction within our lives and then the things that we do. So as a husband, I challenge you to listen carefully and clearly. As a wife, I challenge you to listen carefully and clearly. As a Christian, I challenge you to listen carefully and clearly as we take a moment to allow God, through Paul, to address the importance of love that is demonstrated. Number one, love is patient. Love is patient. Love does not have a short fuse. Doesn't have a short fuse. Doesn't get angry all the time just so quickly. The word that Paul uses here refers to the way we deal with people. Paul says that we are to suffer a long time with other people. Love does not have a short fuse. No matter what act is committed against you, no matter how others have neglected or ignore you, we're to be patient. We're to be patient when we're training our children. We're to be patient with our wives or with our husbands. We're supposed to be patient with with each other. Why? Because we have an enemy. And I battle an enemy, and you battle an enemy. And every moment and every day, he doesn't stop. He has a strategic plan against you, your ministry, your leadership, your influence, your marriage, this church. He doesn't stop. And it's important, and I think it's mind-numbing how easily we forget that if an offense is given to me. Well, I know that we battle the enemy, and I know that he's always on after us, and it's an onslaught. I understand that, but you mess up one time, and you forget that. You're like, oh, I can't believe that person did that to me. Unbelievable. I can't believe my wife said about that. I can't believe my son said about that. And we forget all about that. Why? Because it's about us again. I think it's so important that from the very beginning, and I think it's very telling to the church of Corinth. Number one, love is patient. Where's your patience? Number two, love is kind. I think it's interesting that he talks about patience and then kind. The word kind means to show favor to others and, if needed, hurt with dignity. We don't do that anymore. We don't hurt with dignity. If there's a blow against me, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come right back. Kindness is hurting, learning to hurt with dignity, understanding who you are. And if I respond poorly, I make a situation worse. How many of us have learned the power of hurting with dignity? Paul shows that love is having the strength of grace that allows us to grant forgiveness. It spends itself on others. We have the privilege, through God's power, to grant forgiveness. I don't hold any offense to you. Simple as that. Really, the Bible talks about, as Brooks was talking about, the offense is to God. But we get the opportunity to release people when they do things that, and how many times have we said something like, how many times have I said something in a particular tone or a particular way, approach was just wrong? We all have, especially in marriages. Sometimes we come to church, we put on our smiling face, everything's great. But before we get to church, at home, when you're trying to get dressed and and the time's ticking and you're like, and one person says this, another person says that, and then everything's, you get out of the car and like, hey, brother, everything's great. Everything's great. God is so good. Just a few minutes before, God wasn't that good to you at that moment. Love is kindness. No matter what you receive in return, you give kindness. And what you'll learn is when you stay in this attitude of these things that we're about to go in, it just keeps that peace and that joy. If you open yourself up to some of these things, if somebody offends you, and you open yourself up to that and you give that in return, it robs you of that peace and that joy. It just kind of goes right out the window. Because when you open yourself up with everything that's carried with it. Number 3, love does not envy. Jealousy applies being displeased with the success of others or what others possess or their spiritual gifts, their possessions, their abilities, or anything else. Hey, be happy for people. If you get something that's great, let me celebrate with you. You may be man, I haven't had anything great happen to me in a long time. You may say that. Well, guess what? Celebrate with that person over there. It's good just to celebrate and have fun, not to be jealous or look down at somebody because they have something that you don't have, or you think, and next thing you know, what happens is envy and jealousy just grabs you and rips you because you're not kind or you're not happy for somebody else, and it rips you and it takes you in a direction contrary to who God is. And it happens over and over and over again. Love is not begrudging, but rather sharing in the joys of others. That's love. Number 4, love does not boast. Paul says that love does not brag or seek recognition. The behavior of love seeks to give and to recognize others, to honor others, and to applaud when others succeed. Is that you? Are you able to do these things? Or are you one of those, it's all about me. Hey, look what I've done. Hey, don't look at that person over there. Look about me. Matter of fact, we're going to get to this a little bit more, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But this is idolatry. Because you're putting yourself in front of everybody else and even God. Be careful that you don't boast, where you make yourself the center of attention. And God help some churches, because I know a lot of pastors that put themselves at the center of attention. God help the church. And pray for me. Then that never happens to me, because I know I'm weak. And I've got flesh that I have to deal with. But we never want to get to a point that we think we have anything to offer outside of who God is and what He can do through us. Number 5, love is not proud. Kind of going, it's just so interesting how He just interweaves these things. They connect so well. The word used here for proud means to be puffed up or conceited. The behavior of love does not look at oneself as being better than others. Love is humble and seeks the best for others. We'll talk about that in the coming weeks. Love is not rude. Love does not act in a way that is disgraceful or brings shame to the name of Jesus by our actions. Love treats people with respect at all times. Love is not rude. Some of the rudest people I've ever met have been in church. And they love you, but you just one little thing and whew, aggression. Or they'll say, how about this one? You're in a conversation or this is going on, and all of a sudden they say something that just slices and dices, and then real quick. It's supposed to be just something, a little landmine that they kind of throw. It's supposed to be discreet. They know they did it. You know they did it because you felt the effects of it. You see that all the time in the church. Oh, I love you. Hey, everything's great. You're having a conversation and you just throw that little landmine, just real discreet, and it hurts. That's rude. That's rude. Be careful with your approach when you're talking to individuals, and you're talking to your wife, when you're talking to your children, when you're talking to your husband. Understand the importance of tone. You could be telling the truth, but if you do it in the wrong tone, they forget the truth that you're trying to tell them. Husbands, that's some wisdom for you. You need to write that down. Over and over and over again. We're trying to share that truth that we know and we have, and we do it in the wrong tone. And all our wives hear is the tone. They don't hear the truth. They hear the tone. They walk away mad at you when all you're trying to do is help a situation, offer up truth, but you did it in the wrong way. Had to learn that one the hard way, by the way. Got some scars to show how long it took to learn that one. Love is not rude. We shouldn't be rude to our wives, our husbands, our children. We shouldn't be rude to our brothers and sisters. In 1 Peter chapter 5, it says, we all war against the lion. We all have to battle these things. We shouldn't be rude. We shouldn't be compassionate. We should be in a mind and attitude of prayer. We should be truly listening to what people are really saying, so we know how to pray for them. And if they do say something, just say, hey, look, that's okay. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. Obviously, they're in a battle right now. I understand that. And no matter what you say to me, I will not be rude. Because I want to love the way Christ loved. No matter what you give me, in return, I will not respond back in the wrong way. I refuse to be rude. Number 7, love is not self-seeking. The Greek word that Paul uses literally means to worship oneself. Our society in which being self-seeking is not only tolerated, but it is advocated. Love is not possessive. It is not demanding. It is not stubborn. It is not dominating. I tell you what, that needs to be out in today's social arenas. Love does not dominate. Love does not dominate. Just because we're stronger and have a bigger voice, we don't dominate our conversations with our wives. They shouldn't feel anything but love and kindness and gentleness from us. But yet for some reason we like to dominate. And that even goes outside of our marriages or even with our children. But even amongst Christian brothers and sisters, you don't want to get to a point where you're like, I'm a dominant personality. If I step into a conversation, I take over. And everybody else is quiet because of who I am, how I represent myself, and the strength that I have in me. That's not strength, that's weakness, according to Jesus Christ. Love is not possessive. I'm going to read it again. It's not demanding. It is not stubborn. It is not dominating. Love does not insist on having its own way. It is selfless, not selfish, and is always willing to defer to others. We had small group this last Thursdays for, used to be called Young Married. Now we've opened it up. So if you're married and you want to be part of our group, it's every other Thursday. Just a little shout out. But what we talked about was the importance of not being selfish, but being selfless. That's who Jesus Christ was. He was selfless when he came and endured on the cross. We should do likewise. Don't be selfish. Be selfless. The simple reality is that love seeks to serve others, not to be served by others. I think there's a verse somewhere, Mark 10:45, I don't know, something like that. I think Jesus did something like that. Maybe you can check it out. Number 8, love is not easily angered. Let's go back to this. Paul used the word that means quick-tempered. So he says not easily angered. Quick temper or being ready to take personal offense. Love is never intimidating. Do you know people who are so quick to take offense that you have to handle them with kid gloves? I do. I know people very close to me that I have to handle with kid gloves. The ones that I love so much, but I have to be so careful with. You know people like that? More importantly, are you that way? Quick temper. Let me hit that real quick. And later on in our series, we're going to talk about anger, because it talks about anger in one form or fashion over 70 times in the Scriptures. As a matter of fact, anger has absolutely destroyed testimonies. Absolutely destroyed testimonies, because they didn't learn how to handle the emotion of anger. Absolutely destroys testimonies. It has destroyed marriages. It has crippled relationships. You easily angered? One little thing go wrong and you just explode. One person said the wrong thing, you just kind of explode, or you give them that look. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything. You just give them that look. You just kind of move your eyebrows a certain way. Hey, we know each other, especially within a husband and wife. I know when Pam gets angry, all she has to do is twitch one little way, and I know, whoop, flame has just been lit. 25 years, Brother Bob, you probably really know. You probably even know before she